Hello again to the Graveyard. My name is Cody and I'll be your Graveskeeper this evening. So, once again, we are on the Halloween. This is going to be the last Halloween vid I make this year. Also, this is the second time I've made this. The first time I finished this vid, I had gotten through all of it and it was over 30 minutes, and I'm thinking, nah, I gotta learn to shut up and stop opining on these movies too much. You know, if there are questions on it, they can put it in the comments and I will respond. But just be polite and understand I'm not gonna hit everything about every movie. There will be some things left out, there will be some things I forget. That being said, let's get on to it because I have never actually ranked the Halloween films, and I figured now that Ends is out, that's something I should probably try. So A is just, fantastic, B is still a great watch, C is it's okay, and D is nah, it's ones I don't go to very often, if at all, when I'm in a Halloweeny mood. Just a quick note, I am using the producer's cut of Halloween 6, as well as the theatrical cuts of Halloween's 1 and 2 by Rob Zombie. So keep that in mind when I rank those. So first of all, there's not much I can say that hasn't already been said about the original Halloween. Of course it's A tier, of course it is, right? The atmosphere is so thick with suspense at all times. The introduction of Loomis as this Cassandra-type doctor who's been warning, he's evil, don't let him out. Laurie Strode as this kind of innocent but very responsible young woman who is still alive because she took responsibility for the people she was babysitting that night. And of course, Michael is just this perfect storm of human, yet evil, seemingly unstoppable. It's all just very good. So I'll just say that there's plenty of people who have analyzed it to death. I'll move on. So, Halloween 2. Carpenter is still on the team, the writing team, and he did some directing. So having Carpenter and Hill makes it flow very well from the first. The first movie and the second make a great double feature. It is very suspenseful when Michael chases Laurie through the hall. Of course, one criticism I can make is I really don't like what has happened to the series because, the brother-sister relationship was forged here, and, Carpenter himself didn't like it. I don't like it, but it's still a fantastic film taken on its own. The ending is very good. Carpenter tried to end the series himself. Of course, we all know how that went. There's a lot more movies on the bottom of this row. So, I'm going to put it in B. It's a great watch right after the original. Halloween 3 is very difficult for me to rank because it's not one I watch very often. As lame as it sounds, I kind of don't like it, but not just partly because it doesn't have Myers, that's true, but it feels like a tonal whiplash. Halloween 3 is a very silly film. The plot involves the villain literally stealing Stonehenge, which, sure, and by the way, they acknowledge that and just never tell how they did it. So it's very silly, and they put little bits of it into these computer chips that they put on masks, and when a certain signal is heard on television, little portals will open to other dimensions, and from which bugs will pour out of the kids' heads, killing them. That's the actual story, and if it wasn't for the nudity, this could be a good family flick. So I don't think it's bad, and it has a lot of defenders, but it's not my type of movie, so I put it in 3. It's one I rarely touch. Now, Halloween 4. Halloween 4 is an excellent movie. I'm going to put it in B. I enjoy it a lot. Okay, so Halloween 4 does excellently considering Jamie Lee Curtis isn't in it, and considering that Carpenter and Hill have both left. Right, they didn't want Michael back, so they went ahead and sold their shares of the Halloween franchise to Akkad and skedaddled, and that's fair. Daniel Harris is an extremely capable child actor, and overall, it is an extremely just good movie. There are some really high-tension scenes, like when Jamie Lloyd and her sister are on the roof trying to escape Michael. It's all just very good. The downside, of course, is the mask looks awful and looks nothing like you see on the poster. It is one of the worst things I have ever seen. And my understanding is they tried to order the same mask that they did in '78, but the manufacturer changed the way it made them or something, so it just didn't turn out right. But overall, it's fantastic, and you can see from these 4 films, the series has been doing pretty well so far. Even Halloween 3, which I put in C, is kind of sometimes put in A and B by a lot of other people, so that's fine. But then we get to Halloween 5. Right, Halloween 5 is perhaps one of the most boring films in the series. I don't like it. Loomis is a jackass the whole movie. He's just mean to a mute girl and then uses her as bait for Michael. Right, and of course it retcons an excellent ending from Halloween 4 that could have been interesting, with Jamie maybe teaming up with Michael to be the new killer. And it has Tina, who no one enjoys, and it kills off Jamie's sister, who everyone liked. Right, it should have been the reverse. Should have killed off Tina to show that Michael is still stalking out there. But anyways, it's very boring. They put in some very bad plot devices that they didn't even know what they were going to do with later. The Man in Black and the thorn symbol. It's just not great. I will say the mask is a little bit better in this one, but not by a lot. So Halloween, the producer's cut of Curse of Michael Myers, I think it's fun. I think it's fun to watch, but it's definitely not good. Right? The reason I picked this over the theatrical cut is the theatrical cut really doesn't make much sense, especially since Donald Pleasance couldn't be in the reshoots. It is dumb, it is ridiculous watching a bunch of D&D nerds essentially control Michael for some reason. And, you know, he can only kill when this thorn constellation is in the sky. It's all very, very dumb. But there's a kind of dumbness that I like about it. And maybe that's just me being safe in the knowledge that they abandoned this plotline shortly afterwards. I don't know. And of course, the climax is just Paul Rudd throwing some stones with runes on them at Michael, and that stops him somehow, but then I guess he manages to not be stopped anymore because he switched places with that, the head of the cult, so... And then the movie ends with Loomis becoming the new cult leader. And that's kind of it. It's not that great. So, H2O. H2O is a film I used to put higher. It's on the edge of being B. It's, in fact, really hard for me to put it here. I might move things around later. But I really like H2O. In fact, you know what? I am gonna move this. Yeah, I think that's right. I think maybe 2 is a high C or a low B, and H2O is kind of a low B. Let's go with that. So H2O is a very good return to form. They got Jamie Lee Curtis back. This was kind of the one thing I can't really shake is this idea that it was really just made by the Weinsteins for money, because the Weinsteins had, I believe, were the producers at this point. And, you know, Scream had just come out 2 years earlier. And in fact, the soundtrack to this film was deemed overproduced, and they replaced it with Scream music in places from Scream 1 and 2. So it's kind of hard to escape that this was a bit of a money grab, kind of given a corporate polish. Somehow, however, they did not polish any of the masks, because there's like 4 of them, and none of them look good. Especially that CGI mask. I will tell you, if Michael appeared to me like that, I would find this the most horrifying film of all of them. It would go right to A tier above the original. But being just a moviegoer, it looks not great. There are some very cute moments, like Jamie Lee Curtis's mother, Janet Lee, peering as an employee of hers, and then she drives off in the same car from Psycho. That's really cool. And honestly, the second half of the film is really good. It's a really good kind of cat and mouse battle with kind of this new mama bear Laurie Strode defending her son and his friends from her brother. And that alone is worth watching for. And the ending is fantastic, right? It's a definitive ending. You know, so we thought. That'll bring us to the next one, Halloween. Oh boy, Halloween Resurrection. This film is just a yikes and a half, man. And a lot of people will say it's the worst in the series. I'm not sure I can disagree. It's very bad. It's very bad. First of all, it takes Jamie Lee Curtis and just kind of wastes her by killing her off in the first 20 minutes. The first 20 minutes are terrible. Yes, Jamie Lee Curtis is in it, but she dies in the most unceremonious way. It turns out, you know, oh, she didn't kill Michael in H2O, he swapped places, and by the way, they planned this. They planned this ahead of time. They knew that swap was going to occur in H2O, which is so painful. it gets no better from there, by the way. After Michael kills Laurie, he wants to, after a good day of killing, he wants to go relax at his old house. A job well done. He's killed his whole family, and now he can just chill for the rest of his life. Except there's a bunch of teenagers hanging out in his home for some reason. In a way, this is Michael at like his most relatable. If I came home and a bunch of horny teens were just messing up my house, I'd probably kill them too. Like, this is the most relatable form Michael has ever been. The problem is, he's, like, not the feature. And there's also this moment with, Busta Rhymes, where Busta Rhymes is in a Michael Myers outfit, because he's gonna scare the kids on his stupid web show, and he runs into the real Michael, and he starts berating him. He's like, I'm Michael Myers, you can't be Michael Myers, I scare the kids, go! And he berates him, he's like, go do something useful. And the worst part is Michael does it. He just walks off. It would have been more hilarious if he had killed Busta Rhymes right then and there. That would have been absolutely awesome. But it was not to be, right? Because ultimately, this is almost a Busta Rhymes movie. And I don't even necessarily hate that. Busta Rhymes looks like he's honestly the only person having fun here, because God knows Jamie Lee Curtis wasn't. But it's just terrible. It's terrible. And of course, there's the fact that he pulls out Kung Fu at the end and then just shocks Michael in the penis. And that's how he's defeated. Excellent. And then, of course, there's, a stinger ending where he wakes up in the morgue, because of course there is. So that is just, it's all around very horrible. Now, next up, I'm going to go with Rob Zombie's Halloween, putting it in C. Oh man, can I do that? I'm not sure I can put it above Halloween 5 as the issue. I'm not sure I can do that in good conscience. I think I have to put it in D. Forgive me, Rob Zombie fans, but I'm not a Rob Zombie fan myself. The first 30 minutes of this movie are kind of unwatchable. Just because, we didn't need to know Michael's backstory. His backstory is he was a perfectly normal kid in a perfectly normal household, and he snapped because something evil snapped inside of him. That's all we really needed, but it's not what we get, right? We get him with this house full of his just awful people, just horrible people that I do not want to watch. So, it's like a joy when they get killed off fairly early in the movie by Michael himself. And then the last half of the movie is pretty okay. Right? I still don't like the dialogue. I think Rob Zombie's dialogue skills are very bad. But he's kind of guardrailed into a similar movie that, Carpenter made. In fact, some of them are shot for shot, and some of the script is line for line. And I've got to say, it's not great when my favorite parts of a movie are because they cling closely to a movie that's already made, right? You want to remake something because you have things to add to it. Some new technique, some new character you want, some new insight into the original material, and that's just really not there, right? It feels overly long. It feels very unnecessary. I know this remake has its fans, but I think it's just overall worse in every way. And just as someone who doesn't enjoy Rob Zombie stuff, it really does not hit me the right way. So, I'm sorry, I know there are some defenders of Rob Zombie stuff, but in the same vein, I have to put Halloween 2 also in the D tier. The few things I liked about Halloween were derailed completely in Halloween 2. And this isn't even Rob Zombie's fault, I can't blame him for this. Because it was, in kind of the same way as Carpenter, he made the movie he wanted and then he was gone. Right? He didn't imagine coming back for a sequel. But they wanted him back for a sequel, and he said, well, I think they told him a sequel was happening, regardless of whether he's there to direct it and write it or not. So he just figured, well, screw it, it's my universe, I may as well continue it. So he went ahead and made it. Now, in this, basically no one in Halloween 2 is a likable character. Laurie herself has devolved into the teenage embodiment of the mid-2000s. She's got all these, metal posters on her wall. She's wearing all this black semi-goth stuff, and her friends are not enjoyable, especially now that Laurie's parents have died. They were possibly the most enjoyable thing in the first Halloween with Laurie's parents. They were so funny and nice. And of course they died, because it's a Rob Zombie film. Halloween 2, just everyone is horrible, right? Loomis is at his absolute worst. He's just a dillweed the whole movie, chasing fame. telling women he's gonna beat their opinion out of them when they want it. It's just, and I remember there's also a scene in Halloween 2 where Michael Myers chases a naked woman through a stripper joint, and it's, look, I'm not exactly a prude, but was it necessary? Did I need to, was that something I just had to watch? It seems very unnecessarily brutal. And some people might like that about that. Once again, this is a zombie film, and I think whether or not you are a fan of zombies' work, you know, the Firefly trilogy or whatever, it's gonna really affect that. So, with all that said, let's get on to the David Gordon Green trilogy. Now, I'm just gonna get into it because I've defended this trilogy in a separate video, and if you want to hear my defense of that, you can watch it. But if I do it, it'll add another 10 minutes to this video, and I don't want to do that. So, let's just get on with it. Halloween 2018, I'm going to put an A, with the understanding that it's not as good as the original, right? It is an A-, but it is fantastic. I enjoy Halloween 2018 more ultimately than Halloween 2. Nowadays, when I watch Halloween, I follow it up with Halloween. It's the same... I hate the same title thing. I wish they would have just called it Halloween Returns or something. But, you know, they're both fun. Sometimes I'll watch 2, sometimes I'll watch 2018. Either way, it's a great night. But yeah, so there's a lot of callbacks. It feels like it was made by a fan of the series. It has a lot of callbacks to the original. You know, there's the time where Laurie falls off the roof, and Michael looks away, and then he looks down, and she's gone, right? There's kind of a reversal of fortune, where Laurie is not just this helpless teenager. Now they're fighting to who's the predator and who's the prey. And you know what? If the series had ended right there and Halloween Kills and Ends had never been made, I would have been fine with that. That would have been perfectly serviceable. And some people prefer that. However, I am glad, ultimately, that other movies were made. Oh, also, last thing, that puts number 2, or Halloween 2018 over Halloween 2, is they get rid of the brother-sister thing. I am so glad about that. Halloween Kills. This is where my views start to get controversial. Once again, I'm going to refer you to the defense video. I'm not going to explain it here. Halloween Kills is a perfectly serviceable movie that has a lot of flaws, particularly in the hospital scene, but one thing it does do is it, you know, destroys the lore that Michael's after Laurie, right? He's not. He doesn't care about Laurie. He never did. He stalked her once, 40 years ago, and then he was gone because Loomis was shooting at him, and that's certainly going to get me to run away. And he just wants to go back to his house. That's it. That's the whole story. He wants to go back to his house. He's going to kill some people along the way, but he wants to stare out his sister's window. So the kills are fantastic. I think they're the best kills in the entire series. They're quite satisfying. They're quite gory without I think, being too... I don't know, too classless, I guess is the word. But ultimately, even though there are some severe pacing issues, once the hospital scene comes in, and, you know, Laurie and Michael never meet in this video, you know, it's still decent. Also, the flashback scenes are spot on. They are amazing. It's like they resurrected Loomis from the dead in some of those, or rather, Donald Pleasance. It's amazing how good the prosthetic makeup and the sound alike that they got works. It's like Loomis really is there. It is great. So, overall, Halloween Kids, a fun, dumb slasher, pretty good. Lastly, Ends is going to go also in B. This might also be controversial, because a lot of people hate Ends. I don't mind the direction Ends took. I feel like it's almost a realization of that scrapped Halloween 4 script where you had Jamie and Michael both being evil and killing as kind of a sidekick to Michael, right? Except instead of Jamie Lloyd, it's Corey Cunningham. A couple things this movie has going for it is it doesn't fall into the trap of, well, we just got to get Michael and Laurie to meet. It feels like they had some confidence in their script, moving things around, setting up the romance between Corey and Allison. And it is a little overlong, but I don't think they use that time too badly. Another thing it has going for it, you know, there is a finality to it, there is a final battle, and it is a good battle, and it is a good ending, and it's the most definitive ending that the series has ever had. And if Michael actually comes back somehow, and there's like Halloween Lives, as a fourth entry into the trilogy, I will eat a shoe on camera on another YouTube video. Okay, so just hold me to that. So ultimately, I liked Ends. Even though it is certainly not the greatest film, it has my favorite ending of any film in the series. I just think it's overall a nice, quiet end to the movie. I didn't necessarily expect it to be an explosive ending, so I'm fine with that. It's not the greatest movie, certainly not the worst movie. I enjoyed what I got. So that's my thoughts on the whole franchise. I didn't feel... I almost wanted to put A in by itself, but I felt, 2018 I think has earned the right to be called A as well, even though it still doesn't quite, come close to the original. It still has problems. I feel like this is a good kind of viewpoint of my opinion on the series. So, I appreciate you all watching this vid. This will be my last Halloween-based vid for the year, and I will be moving on to other horror films. I'm looking at a Thanksgiving horror film that I don't think anyone has ever seen. I might be like one of 5 people who've seen it. So, look forward to that, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.